So let's talk about this topic that's really important to me and it's important to everybody. It's about believing your beliefs and doubting your doubts. Because in life, too many times we doubt our beliefs and we believe our doubts to a point where it hurts us in growing ourselves. Now, to be clear, every one of us has doubts. We have doubts on a regular basis. The question is, how long do you let yourself stay in those doubts? What I want you to do is stay in there as short a time as possible. Seconds, not minutes, not hours, not days. You want to be able to take those doubts fleeting, make them fleeting, and I'll teach you by the end of this hour about how to do that. I'm going to talk to you about having an irrational belief in what you're doing. Again, having a rational belief in what you're doing, how good you are, the impact you're going to make on people, customers, the world, whatever it is. It's got to be irrational. If it's rational, it's not worth it, right? If it's rational and everybody expects you to do it, it's really not that meaningful. You want to do something that people don't believe that you can do, didn't think you'd get to that goal. You might have not thought you're going to get to that goal. That's what believing your beliefs will get you. It'll get you to a place where you weren't even sure that you even had a chance of getting there. But because your mind was so strong in what you're doing, how you're doing, the impact you're making, you continue to move forward day in, day out. And guess what happened? What happened is you got there and you probably exceeded greater than you ever formally thought about at the beginning. So let's get to it. So let me start with proving to you that believing in yourself and just beliefs is a real thing. It's not something that's woo-woo or new age or whatever there's real science behind it. And when I say science, I mean science. So let me start with a study. This is a famous study. It's the Moseley study on arthroscopic knee surgery. So in this study, there was 3 arms in the study. The first arm of this study were the set of patients where they had the true surgery. They had surgery on arthroscopic knee surgery. So normal surgery. The second arm, they had what they call lavage treatment, which is basically they just flushed out the knee fluids, blah, blah, blah. And that was the second arm. The third arm was basically a sham surgery. They did not do surgery on these patients. Okay? So, but then the patients all thought they did the surgery, right? So what were the results of these 3? Well, surprisingly, all the patients thought that their pain got better. They reported their pain got better, and the function of the knee improved in all 3 arms. So what does it tell you? What it tells you is that the patient's expectations of the surgery was so great that even in the 2 arms, the lavage and the sham surgery, that they felt better after the surgery. So in the medical field, they call that the placebo effect, which is really just believing so strongly that something is going to be effective, something's going to work, that it does. And that's what I'm talking about. This is science. Now, every study done in the medical field has a placebo arm because it's that strong. And depending on the disease or depending on the area you study, sometimes the placebo affects 30 to 40% of the patients. That's a lot of patients believing that something's going to work even before they get it. So it's a huge deal, but it proves that you believing or a person believing that something's going to work has a big effect. And that's what I want to tell you about how important believing your beliefs and doubting your doubts is when it comes to what you're doing on a regular day-to-day basis. So that's the thing I want you to hold strong, is that belief system you have is incredible in getting you to levels that you probably wouldn't get to. Now, let me do it personally on me. As you can see from the screen, you see $7 billion leader. I have a company, Glasswell's Leadership. I was a head of sales for Fortune 100 companies. Did a lot of things. So you see this stuff and you say, "Oh man, guy's been successful." What you don't see is that I failed 5 times getting to be a second line leader and a third line leader. I failed another 5 times. So I failed a lot of times. So how did I get to that level? Was the belief that I could make a difference. That I believed in myself and my skills and what I had to get there. So what I call this is the Instagram effect. So when you see Instagram, you see the after picture. You see these great places where these people are, and you see these great things that they're doing, and you see the great food that they're making. Never mind that they probably failed the first 3 or 4 times they made that meal, and that it fell or whatever. But you don't see that. You don't see all the work. You see that after picture. You've heard the term overnight success. Oh my God, this person's an overnight success, this musician, this actor, oh my God, they came out of nowhere. That's never the case. All those people have been working day and night to get there, to get to wherever they are that today. They work day and night. You didn't see it, but it was there. And for each and every one of those people, they had to believe in their ability to get there, right? And so it's really, really important that we think about that in what we're doing. So let me give you a story of somebody that you know of. You've heard of this person. Okay, this person started off. She just had the death of her mother. Soon after the death of her mother, she got a divorce. After the divorce, she was living on welfare. And because of the welfare, she was struggling with depression. Now, with all of these things, she did have something that she thought she did well. And she thought she could write a little bit. She thought she would write well. So she came up with an idea that was interesting to her. She thought it was very good. Then she shopped the idea to several big publishers, 12 huge publishers. They all said no. Then she shopped it to medium, small, different publishers. They also no, except one. One publisher said yes, but they didn't really say yes. This publisher's daughter read the manuscript and liked the manuscript. And so the publisher decided to, okay, I will do a run of books. Now, just to show you and tell you how little that that publisher believed in the story and in the writer, they only ran 500 books, which is small, very small. And you might have heard of the author. I wrote this book with the name of Harry Potter, and the author's name is J.K. Rowling. And really, the story is, perseverance, just a strong belief in themselves, just a die-hard understanding of what they were going through and what it needed, and never taking no for an answer. Now, you understand, going through all those traumatic events, which many of us have either been through or are going through today, but still believing they had more to give, they had other things they could do to impact, and getting that no on a regular basis, getting that Heisman of I'm not ready for you, the world's not ready for you, this story's not good, and just continuing to persevere, continuing to think that this book is good. And I think those authors were a little sad after they realized that they passed up on arguably one of the best, most prolific authors and from a financial gain they probably ever had or could ever imagine having. So that's the power of beliefs. That little thing is powerful. Understanding how important believing is so critically important. Okay? So now talk to you about the belief. I told you about the belief in myself. I told you the story about J.K. Rowling's, right? Let me go to the other side of the equation. Let's go to doubts and overcoming doubts. And we'll get to that towards the end. But I wanted to talk about the common doubts that we have, that we hold on a regular basis. So the first doubt we have is there's 9 of them, just to be clear. And the first doubt is past failures and setbacks. So if you've had a past failure, you failed, you were in college and you took an exam and you failed miserably and then you had to drop the class, and then you took another class and you did mediocre, and you just basically said to yourself, I'm not smart, I'm not going to graduate, I'm not good enough. And that holds you back. Or you had a setback in your career where you came up with a thought of something that you thought would be great for either yourself or the company, and it failed miserably. And because of that setback or failure, you are gun shy to move forward. You do not want to take that step forward because you got this history of failure or setbacks. Now, you've heard things in people like Dyson, the vacuum cleaner guy who failed thousands of times before with the Dyson vacuum cleaner before he came to one that really worked. You've heard of Edison, how many times he failed before coming up with the light bulb. So we fail on a consistent basis. And these things, these setbacks, can't hold you back. They cannot hold you back. You have to continue to move forward. So that is the first one, is these past failures and setbacks really bog us down. The second one is the lack of confidence. So if you're a new employee at an organization and you're in a meeting and the manager or the team's discussing something that you believe that you have something to add that is valuable, but you lack the confidence to say it. You don't know if what you're going to say is going to be taken the right way, and then they're going to put you in this box, and then you will not be able to get out of that box ever. That's what you think, so you say nothing. How many times does it happen? It happens a lot because you don't believe in yourself. You don't have the confidence to say these things, to take a chance, because you're afraid that, the springboard effect, how it's going to affect you, how people are going to think about you. So you say nothing. And really what that does is the world misses out, because that one idea can lead to other ideas. But you lack the confidence. You lack confidence in words. So I come from the selling background, and if you're a salesperson and you lack confidence, the customer knows it, feels it, smells it, and you're going to be unsuccessful and radically so, because you just don't say the things, don't feel the confidence. So confidence is a huge deal. And if you have a lack of confidence, doubting yourself, it's gonna significantly hold you back. The third doubt that we have is perfectionism. This is one of the doubts I'm good at. I don't have that perfect, but a lot of people have that perfectionism issue. Now, when I think of perfectionism, I go back to thinking about the writers who will write something, right where they don't like it, they'll crumple the paper, throw it down, and there'll be this big stack of papers around their office or room or whatever. And they want to write every word perfectly, and they want to do everything perfectly. Have you ever started an email and then delete, go back, write it, delete? So you're writing a 3-line email and you've been at it for 45 minutes. Has that ever happened to you? It happens to all of us, right? And that sort of thing happens to all of us where we're rewriting because sometimes probably in the past we made a spelling mistake or, punctuation, we spelled somebody's name wrong. And so we want to be perfect with things like that. So there's so much area for perfectionism can hold you back. There's a terminology. I think I might mess this up. Perfection is the enemy of good, or great is the enemy of perfection, something like that. So I told you I would mess it up. But the point is, you want to be good, not perfect. People are looking for authenticity. They're not looking for perfection. But perfection is one of the things that we need to overcome. It's a common, very, very common thing that holds many of us back. So again, perfectionism is one of those. Comparison to others. I mentioned Instagram before because we compare a lot on Instagram, because we scroll through and we see these things and we see these people and we compare ourselves to where we are, where we want to be, and where we believe we see these people, or these people sell to us that they have achieved this wealth, beauty, cooking ability, whatever it is. They've achieved all that, and they're flaunting it on this app, and we're looking at it, doom scrolling for hours because it tricks our brain. Our dopamine increases, and it's exciting, and we want to do this, or it's the latest exercise. You see somebody you want to look like, male or female, and then you're in it. You're deep in it because you're comparing yourself to them. And when you compare to them, you're always losing. You're always in the second, third, or worse position because you do that. Another area that, from a work perspective, that happens with people doubting themselves is when you look at LinkedIn, when you see somebody that just got promoted and they, balloons and flowers go through, you're like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Except that you haven't got promoted in months or years, or even worse, if you know the person that got promoted and you said, he got promoted, I'm better than him, but he's in a better place, he's got a bigger title, and he's making more money, and look at me, look where I am. I'm in the same place I was 2 years ago, doing the same thing I've been doing for 5 years. And this guy, inarguably, is not as talented as me, is doing better in every way. It's just not right. That's what we believe. That's what happens when we compare ourselves to others. We think that way. So that gets in the way of doubting. Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is one of the doubts that we have on a regular basis, because you get into a position, which this happened to me. I got a new position and working very hard and doing a lot of things, but you see yourself doing more or doing better, or you don't understand what you're doing has impact. And I was in this new position for 2 months, and I said to my boss, I said, I'm not sure I'm creating the impact that I want, or I'm going to do. And he quickly said, absolutely not, you are, right? And I had to think about this. I had to rethink what I was thinking about if I was actually adding value to others in this situation. Now, I guarantee you that everybody's been through this, where they don't think they're worthy of where they stand, where they are. But in almost every case, they are worthy. But it holds us back. It holds us back from doing things because we don't think we are good enough. And if you're in that situation presently and you don't get validation from other people, you're probably gonna linger in that imposter syndrome a lot longer than it needs to be. So it's a common doubt. I was talking to a class or a group, and I asked them how many people have imposter syndrome, and everyone raised their hands. Everybody raised their hands because it's a very, very common one. So that's number 5 of the common areas of doubt. Number 6 is the lack of experience or knowledge. Now, if you lack experience, you have to go get it. And because you don't have it, you don't move forward with something that would probably move you, the organization, your team forward, but you procrastinate, you don't do these things because you lack experience, and it's a doubt, and you're doubting yourself that you can do it. And this like stems with some of the, I mentioned like the number one was past failures and setbacks. Really coincides with lack of experience, right? You also, if you don't have a lack of knowledge, you are afraid. So my daughter, anytime we just with something new, we have to put something together, a toy, a gadget, something, whatever. My daughter has no this has no lack of knowledge, or the lack of knowledge doesn't deter her. Let me say it that way. She will put it together, try 4 or 5 6 different ways, and figure it out. And without going on YouTube or doing or actually reading the directions. She's inquisitive and she wants to learn, and she wants to learn by doing. That's obviously the way to get out of that knowledge, is to go ahead and get knowledge. But a lot of us are so frustrated, or would be so frustrated, if we didn't know exactly point by point, step by step, how to do this, how to get out of this. If we didn't know that, it would cripple us. We wouldn't have the wherewithal to get out of that, right? So that lack of experience and lack of knowledge is something that deters us. And again, the only way to do that is to go ahead and get that. That's number 6. Number 7 is a fear of failure. When you talk about doubts, failing, or the fear of failing is huge, or the fear of rejection. Let me talk to you a little about it. So when you think about, or when I think about the fear of rejection, it goes back to high school and college with the opposite sex, and thinking that I like this person. Two people told me that person is fond of me, but I'm still fearful of asking this person for coffee, a date, movies, whatever, because the fear of failure is so strong. That fear of rejection is so strong that I'm not going to move forward. I think that might have happened to 1 or 2 people listening to this, because it happened a lot, right? That fear of failure. So that's from a personal perspective, but the fear of failure from a business perspective. If you look at that, somebody has an idea that they believe, or they have a modicum of belief that this will be best for themselves, their team, their organization. But they don't want to put their whole faith behind it, their name behind it, because if fails, it's going to come back on them. And they'll say, "No, Rutherford, he's the one that told us to do this, and it didn't work at all, so it's really his fault." So they don't do it. Why would I do anything where I had a chance of failing? Why would I put myself in a situation where I even had a chance of failing? Huh? Is that smart? Is that going to get me a promotion? Is that going to get me, more money? The calculus in that person's brain is no. So I don't do anything. I'm paralyzed. I don't do anything because there's this chance of failure. That's a doubt that if I do this is going to be bad, and I'm going to fail, and I can't do it. So it's one of those things that, again, it holds us back. That's the 7th one. The 8th one is negative self-talk and limiting beliefs. So if you talk negatively on a regular basis about yourself, about your abilities, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're telling yourself, "I'm not good enough," or "I haven't been good enough in the past," or "I don't know why I think I can do that." Thinking like that and talking like that just stops you from moving forward. If you're a publisher, we're talking a lot about books today. If you're a publisher, it stops you from continuing to write, because you say, "I'm not a good writer," and you will not even submit your work. because you've taught yourself out of that book being good. Now, I've heard many, many times from many people that they've written things and they've never shown it to anybody because they've talked themselves out of that being good, and they don't want the potential negative reaction of that person to come back hurt them. I mentioned to you about J.K. Rowling, and she had a thought because she believed in herself. But how many people are the antithesis of J.K. Rowling? A lot, who have written things, very good things, but the world will never see it because it's still on their shelf. It's in a box in the attic. It's someplace, but it's not for anybody else to see, because their negative self-talk about their worth, their ability is so strong. It's crazy. Limiting beliefs is something else. When you say I'm not good enough, I'm not good at school, I'm not a good writer, I'm not good at math, I'm not a good salesperson, I can't talk on stage, I can't do this. It's debilitating. I coached Little League baseball and I coached basketball. And there was something that I would never let the kids say I can't. Especially, so kids when they're, 7, 8, 9 or older, say that all the time. So if you could imagine yourself, your 8, 9-year-old self, and you hit the ball, make contact once in the last 4 games. Your belief system is not going to be positive when you walk up to the plate. You're just not going to believe that you're good, that you can hit the ball. You've already lost because you've talked yourself out of it. There was something coaching these kids was to talk to them about that was history and we're going to move forward and you're going to get a hit, you're good enough, all that kind of stuff. But it was hard because of the limiting beliefs of the negative self-talk that they had. And by the way, the parents in the stands would say things, don't swing and miss. It's a negative self. Why would you say that to somebody in the stands as a parent? They're trying to encourage them by telling them negative things. So, which happens constantly. As a coach, I heard it, I saw it, I felt it on a regular basis when these parents, they're well-intentioned. They wanted to do the right things for the kids, but just by saying these things, they're putting negative thoughts into the child's brain. And guess what happened? They probably weren't successful. Or if serendipity happened, the ball hit the bat, not the bat hit the ball. The ball hit the bat and they made contact and got on base. That limiting belief, that negative self-talk is something that significantly holds us back, like all of these. So that's number 8. Let's get to the last one. This is the last common doubt. This is a lack of support or validation. I kind of mentioned it a couple of minutes ago with validation. So if you're somebody that's actually done something pretty good, you think you've done something well, but you get no support from your colleagues, from your manager, your leader, from the organization, you are probably not going to do that again. You're probably not going to be vocal about what you do. It's going to put you in a place where you lack confidence, getting back to the number 2 common doubt, and you're just not going to do things because you're not around people that are going to give you support. And that is telling you that's going to hold you back in a very, very, very big way. So that lack of support, being around those people, getting in that right area is going to be big for you. So those are the 9 things. Let me go through them quickly. It's past failures and setbacks, lack of confidence, perfectionism, comparison to others, imposter syndrome, lack of experience or knowledge, fear of failure, negative self-talk and limiting beliefs, and lack of support or validation. So all those things are the things that are doubts. So let me get to the last 15 minutes or so of this is on how do we solve for those limiting beliefs, those common doubts, and how do we promote this and strengthen our belief? For me, there's 5 ways to strengthen your belief. The first way is really about identifying your strengths and accomplishments. It's really important that you know how good you are and what you're good at. This comes into play in so many things in in when you're interviewing and when you're talking to people and when you take positions of strengths. Years and years ago, when I first started in pharmaceuticals and I was a leader, we always worked on people's weaknesses. We said, hey, this guy's really strong at clinical, so we're going to work on his closing. And we worked on it, and they got slightly better. It's a very few times when you work on somebody's weaknesses where it becomes a strength. It happens, but it's very rare. It's extremely rare. So what's more important is we continue to work on our strength and make those strengths towering strengths, and we get great and great at that. But you have to know what they are. So identifying the strengths that you have and identifying the accomplishments that you've achieved over time helps you. It helps you with growing your belief because you've already done it. You see that I'm really strong and I'm really analytical, so I'm going to be able to get that position. I can do that problem. I can solve that issue. It gives you so much confidence because you know you're good at it. So really understanding your strengths and accomplishments are a huge thing. Now, so some of you might say, I don't really know what my strengths are. So there's a couple ways you can go at this to find out. The easiest, least expensive way to do this is just asking 5 to 10 people that know you, and just ask them the question. So what do you think? When you and I talk, and you've known me for 6-7 years, we've been in business together, we've went to school together, whatever it is. What do you think my strengths are? What would you tell somebody else I'm really good at? And after you asked about 5, 7, 10 people about this, you're going to start hearing these things about yourself that you probably didn't realize and didn't understand. I'll explain to you. When I first became a first-line leader back in the day, I was in an interview. I was like 2 or 3 interviews. So somebody asked me this question. I couldn't answer it. They asked me, what's your leadership style? And I had no idea. I had no idea what they're talking about. Leadership style. It's something I don't think about, I could tell you what I don't do and what I do, but I can't give you an overall name for it. So what I did was I said, because I was being asked so many times, I said, okay, let me ask my team, the 10 people on my team. I asked them, what they thought about me as a leader, and what are the things that they thought I was good at. And they told me. And honestly, 2 things that they were said in common, I didn't realize. I had no clue. I didn't see myself or think of myself in that way. And when they told me, I actually started realizing it afterwards. But it might take you talking to people about your strengths that you actually start believing, oh my God, actually I'm pretty good at that. I didn't know that I was so much better than others. But when 6 out of 10 people say, hey, you're really strong in this area, it's probably true. It's probably true. So that's one way to find out about your strengths. The other way is all these different personality tests. The first thing that comes to mind, which is kind of obvious, is Strength Finders. So the Strength Finders will tell you, after questions, Strength Finders, the DISC, Myers-Briggs, all these personality tests. There's a test called Drive. All of them will tell you your strengths and your communication style and things like that. Insights is another one, uses colors to tell you your strengths. Okay, so if you are like, I don't know what my strengths are, that ask people. By the way, ask somebody that is really close to you, is going to tell you the truth. By the way, always ask people that are going to tell you the truth about yourself. One of the things that I talk to people about is no one gets better if you don't tell them the truth, and tell the truth, good or bad. And everyone's got a great friend or a best friend. Your best friend's probably going to tell you the truth, right? And because they don't have that fear that if I tell you the truth, you're not going to be friends any longer. You've probably been friends long enough where you're used to that person telling you the truth. So ask that person. So again, the first and really important thing is know your strengths. Know your strengths, identify your strengths, understand where you are, that will help you, give you greater belief in yourself. The second point is practice positive self-talk. Now, you heard me just a little while ago talk about how negative self-talk is such a big deal. Well, in contrast, positive self-talk is extremely important. Let me say it to you this way. The most important conversation that you should have every day is with yourself. Every day. You should have a conversation with yourself about what you're going to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, your ability, the difference you're going to make in the world with your family, with work, church, whatever, right? That positive self-talk about the impact you're going to make on others is so important. And when you do that on a regular basis, the belief system you're going to have is going to increase. But this is when I think of positive self-talk, I think there was a Saturday Night Live skit, Stuart Smalley, which he talked. So I'm not talking about the Stuart Smalley type of self-talk. I'm talking about the real self-talk. I'm talking about real talk about your ability, about how good you are, and talking yourself into greatness. If you talk about how you're going to do on stage, and how you're going to do, and on stage meaning if you're going to do a speech, if you're going to present something to your leader, manager, boss, whatever, you're going to talk to yourself about how good you're going to be. You're going to talk about how great am I going to be in this conversation. So that's the positive self-talk that's going to really help you. And you're going to talk about at the end, this is what I'm going to get. It's really positive. So that's something that absolutely will help you make a difference. The third one is setting goals and then acting on those goals. So setting goals are extremely important. I talked at the beginning about this irrational belief in your success. I want you to have an irrational belief in your success. The way you do that is by setting irrational goals. And I say irrational goals. They're going to be irrational to others. Somebody's going to see that goal and go, how in the world are you going to do that? Do you think that J.K. Rowling had a goal to write one book? No, she had a rational goal to write a series of books, which is what she did, and to be his bestseller and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Right? You have to have this irrational belief that you're going to be great. Now, one of the examples I always use when I talk about a rational belief is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, when he started his company years ago, selling books online, he called that company Amazon. Obviously, Jeff was not thinking small or rational when he called his company Amazon. He was thinking big, right? He set these huge goals, and that's what I would ask you to do. Set goals, and then really act on those goals. Now, when you're setting goals, the pro tip I would give you is don't set. I mean, you can set a financial goal, but the goals that I think you should set are the purpose-driven goals, the number of people you're going to impact, the number of lives, the things you're going to do. Those quantifiable goals, those goals set. Now, there are people who are financially motivated that I said absolutely set those financial goals, set them daily, quarterly, weekly, whatever. Those are fine. This is personally for me. I want to set purpose-driven goals because that gets me up all the time. Now, let me give you I'll give you an example of a goal that I had. I had it in my late 20s. We first had kids. I was, I'd go to the gym in the morning, blah, blah, blah. And then, when you have kids, life changes. So I had to get up a little earlier. And I was like, I got to get up early because I said one of my goals was to be able to play with my grandkids when they're 15. I wanted 15, 16, whatever the age, I wanted to be able to play with them. I did not want to be pushed around in a wheelchair or need any assistance, or grandpa can't play because he's blah, blah, whatever. So because of that, I made it a behavior to do some type of physical activity, workout, walk, run, blah, 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 5 to 6 days a week. And that's happened since I was in my late 20s. And it's because of the goal that I had about the Greg. So getting up early in the morning is not something I do for myself. It's because of that. So that's why I talk about the purpose-driven works. Try it if that's something that you want to do. You might want to try that for yourself. So yeah, so set these goals and then go ahead and act upon them. Surround the fourth thing of the 5 ways to strengthen your belief is surround yourself with positivity. It's important that you're around people that help push you forward. You've heard and seen this thing about you are the 5 people you spend your most time with. That's true. Because if you're around positive people, if you're around people that are achieving greatness, or people that think differently than you in a good way, better way, for growing, however you want to grow yourself, your career, in whatever realm that is, you surround yourself with those people. There's a higher probability you're going to get there because you're around those people. If you're around negative people, they're going to be like crabs in a bucket. They're going to be continually pulling you down because they don't want you to succeed. You want to be around positive people. You want to be in an environment of positivity because that will help you. Okay? Very, very important. The last of the 5 ways to strengthen your belief is continually learn and grow. It's imperative that you are constantly learning and growing, because that's how you're going to win. That's how you're going to win on a regular basis. One of the things was lack of knowledge, lack of experience. But you mitigate that by learning. If you learn and grow, you won't have that. So always learn and grow. And however you do it, for me, it's podcasts every day, 3 to 4 hours of podcast. I always learn, I always grow that way. Whatever way you want to do it, put yourself in a situation where you can increase your belief by learning and growing. Okay? So those are the 5 ways. Identify your strengths, practice positive self-talk, set goals, surround yourself with positivity, and continue to learn and grow. That's going to help you get there. Let me end this with this talk from this thing that is quote from Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs, and I'll read this to you. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify, vilify them, and the only thing you can do is you can't do is ignore them, because they'll change things. They'll push the human race. And while some of these might be crazy ones, we see genius, because these people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So they're not crazy. You're not crazy. All you want, if you believe in yourself, you believe in your ability, you will get to whatever goal you're going to get to. Have a great day and never stop believing.